I see your demons, I'm telling them it's on sight. I'm just playing, I don't fight, I do pray. I only go the way of Mr. Yahweh. Try to correct me.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Profitable Cleaner podcast. I'm your host, James Harper, with an awesome guest today, Dave Pacifico. Dave, how's it going today, man?
Good, and I really appreciate you having me. I've been looking forward to this for a while, so glad to be here.
Absolutely, man. We were kind of just chatting before we hit record on how we came to find you guys. So typically, and this is for the listeners, and I guess also for you to know, Dave, we don't just interview anyone. It's mostly recommended to us, and all of our guests have fortunately happened very organically. And how we found you guys was we kept hearing Team Engine's name come up in conversation within the commercial cleaning industry, and one of our oldest supporters and clients, Andrew with IconoClean, shout out to Andrew, was like, dude, and I don't know what you need to do, but you need to speak with someone at Team Engine, and introduced me to your guy over there, Carlos. And Carlos and I had a great conversation, and the relationship's just kind of grown. This is you and I, Dave's first time ever meeting and getting the chance to talk. But for the ones listening right now, tell us a little bit about Dave first, and then Team Engine second.
Sure. So I'm one of the co-founders of Team Engine, along with Carlos. We started the business together about 6.5 years ago. I generally come from the software world, and Carlos came a little bit more from this type of world. But I'm really passionate about using technology and software to solve real world problems. I guess that's why I'm an entrepreneur. And we were particularly passionate about this space just because we felt like it was really underserved. I also am super passionate about people and team building. And so being able to kind of bring some of that passion and my software experience to this industry and really help in these areas. And so this kind of bleeds into what Team Engine does, is that we really are built around, we see the world as, in businesses like the commercial cleaning business and others that are so people-centric, there's two ways that your business can go. Your people can be your biggest headwind or your biggest tailwind. And so often it's the biggest headwind, right? You talk to these companies and it's like the biggest problem is finding good people, hiring them, retaining them, engaging them, getting the best out of them. And it doesn't have to be that way, but there's a reason why it's like that. People are not centrally located. They're at all sorts of different job sites. They speak different languages. They can't communicate with each other all that easily. You have different qualities of managers on each of those sites, and it can be difficult to manage the managers to a high quality. And so Team Engine is built to really bridge a lot of those gaps. And we're built around a foundation of communication that's really, texting and WhatsApp central versus everyone needs to install an app and enter a username and password and all these friction points that exist and other ways of solving these problems. We try to kind of meet people where they are. And then we've also built in things like automatic language translation. So suddenly people who only speak English can actually have a conversation and interaction with people who only speak Spanish or other languages. And it just breaks down those barriers that exist all throughout, not just this industry, but a lot of other industries like it. And so we're really we talk about making your people your competitive advantage, making them your tailwind instead of your headwind. It sounds, some people out there listening probably think that that's impossible. But it sounds like Andrew at IconoClean at least thinks it's possible. And I think many others do as well.
Yeah, totally, man. I love how you guys have streamlined the communication, and you said something really interesting there. You said friction or points of friction within communication and meeting people where they're at. I think that is huge, especially in a maybe not a tech innovative industry like janitorial. It's I feel like janitorial, and I say this with love because we're in the industry, but we're always playing catch up when it comes to technology.
Sure.
And communication, especially. I've seen, dude, I could tell you stories of WhatsApp groups I've seen with operations managers and cleaners and then, oh, should we add the building owner in this? It's just like crazy, man. So talk to us about some of those common communication friction points you've seen within service-based businesses and ways that you've seen solutions come about with using a program like Team Engine.
Yeah. So, gosh, there's so many. You said 30 to 40 minutes. We may need 3 or 4 hours. But, one thing is just, like, people don't use email. I barely use my email anymore. It's gotten so overwhelming. And I think particularly people in the field service industries, certainly janitorial and commercial cleaning, I just can't imagine that anyone's having much success trying to communicate with their employees via email. So that's kind of out. I think probably a lot of people out there have tried to get people on some system they try to get people to log into their payroll system using a username and password. It's like, they don't remember it. They don't want to do it. It just doesn't work. So ultimately you end up falling back to one of two things that I've seen people do in the past. They either have a central meeting place that everyone kind of circulates through at the beginning of the day, and there's messages written on a whiteboard that also no one reads, or they activate the phone tree through the supervisors, and then who knows whether that information is getting out to the employees in the field. And it still keeps everyone very siloed. So, the world has sort of changed a lot over even just the 6 years we've been a company. But there was a time where the sort of attitude and the dynamic in industries like this was, you should feel glad that you have a job. Like, we show up, get your work done, we'll pay you, and you should be happy that you have a job. And the whole balance of power with the workforce versus the employer, I think has shifted a lot over time. And now the onus is really on employers to build loyalty and to give the labor force, which is so small relative to the openings, a reason why should they work for you. And so you have to go above and beyond to make them feel like part of the company and make them feel connected to leadership and the mission of what you're doing and how they fit in to the broader business. And it's like just incredibly hard because they're not going to check their email. They're not going to log into this system that's built for people with desk jobs. They speak a different language. And so, Team Engine allows things like the central office staff, whether it's the general manager, an HR person, they can just pull up our software on their web browser and can instantly send a message to a specific set of crews, everyone that's in a given sort of area, everyone in the company. Maybe they're celebrating a new team member that's joined or somebody who's reached a certain work anniversary, and it's just instant. It's right to their phone via text message. They didn't install anything. They didn't have to remember a username or password. And I think people just see this, like, they have an epiphany early on using this kind of communication about everything that their employees have to share with them that they're not getting because there's no way for them to do it. Whether it's, ways to improve the efficiency of their job, like even just having a way to solicit feedback from the people that are at each of your job sites. What is the one thing I could do to make your job more efficient? Hey, how many people know the answer to that question? It's really hard to get. But it can be really eye-opening when you do, and can make a huge difference in your business.
Hey, are you ready to challenge yourself? Mark your calendars for the event of the year, the Cleaning Profits Takeover Edition, happening in Denver, Colorado from September 24 to 26. Head over to event.cleaningprofits.com for all the details. For being listeners, use code CEO30 for a 30% discount. See you there.
Yeah, I think that's well said, man. I do agree that like the powers have kind of shifted from, hey, you should be lucky to have a job, now work, to we actually as leaders and business owners have to provide a place that's attractive to not just work at, but to stay at and then actually want to be committed to for the long term. And one thing I found interesting about you guys, and when I was speaking to Carlos, I really bought into the philosophy, is like, no, we're not just a text platform. Like, we're really a team engagement platform. And you touched on it a little bit, like calling out someone's birthday, right, to the entire team. Or maybe it's like, especially in the janitorial industry, there's so much of, I just hired a new cleaning crew or a new cleaner, and they're dealing with the manager, but haven't heard directly from the owner. And so talk to us about some of those team engagement things that you've seen through Team Engine that might be beneficial for someone listening that's like, okay, I can buy into the concept, but how does that actually look like?
Yeah, great question. So it goes back to somewhat of an answer to your previous question too about the barriers that exist. And one of the barriers that exists in this industry is that there's just so much that's operational that you have to do every day. You have to make sure that all of your shifts are staffed and people get to the locations they're supposed to get to at the time they're supposed to get there, and the work is done to a high quality. And just even thinking about, okay, I also have to layer in appreciating my employees and recognizing work well done, and having the owner reach out to the individual new field staff members, like, where am I going to find time to do all of this? And so one of the things that Team Engine does, and I think one of our major strengths, is the combination of sort of personalization and automation. And increasingly that's incorporating it thoughtfully and intelligently, incorporating some of the advancements in AI. But right out of the box, when you start with Team Engine, you get a sequence of milestones for your employees that help you, because that first 30 to 180 days, it kind of depends on the company, are like super critical for an employee. And there's things that you really want to do. You want to make sure to check in with them at regular intervals. You know, how's it going? What's one thing we can improve? But really make them feel seen and appreciated, and like their opinion matters and they're an important member of the team. So you want to survey and get their feedback. You might want to do a 90-day informal performance review or formal performance review around their that critical point, just to give them feedback on how they're doing. There's probably performance evaluations you want to do later on, and these things can easily get lost in the background of the day-to-day operations, and Team Engine helps you. So it'll do things like, okay, if you have a 6-month performance review process, you can automate a message with instructions to their supervisor saying, hey, it's Dave. Dave's coming up on this 6-month anniversary with us next week. You need to do X, Y, and Z, and then follow up on that. And like you said, it is amazing. One of the biggest pieces of feedback we get is how valuable the birthday and work anniversary recognition is. It seems so simple, but having somebody like come into work in the morning and they get a message from the team saying, you know, hey, happy birthday, we hope you have a great day. And then the other thing that Team Engine will do is it'll tell your supervisor that it's your birthday. So when they get on the job site that day, they can say, hey, James, I hear today's your birthday. Awesome. What are you doing for it? You know, is your family spoiling you or something like that? Same thing with work anniversaries. My attitude is, this day and age, if you get somebody to hit an annual work anniversary with you, you should be celebrating the heck out of that, because it's hard, and you should be very appreciative of that person for investing that part of their career in you. And, you know, frankly, you're doing something right. But one of the things you should be doing is really acknowledging that and expressing appreciation for that tenure with you, and something Team Engine helps with.
I love that, man. I think that your emphasis on people, but specifically team, which is in the ethos of your name, is huge. So we always hear in commercial cleaning, it's all about customer experience and client satisfaction and all these key words. And one thing lately I've been saying, and I know people listening to this, if you're listening to this podcast, you're a leader within the industry and you lead a team. So like I always say, like, our team's goal should be client satisfaction. As the leader, your goal should be team satisfaction. And how critical is honoring someone that's committed to your company for a year, 2 years. And it's like, if such a simple thing to do, and if you miss that step, I don't think you're going to lose that person necessarily, but we're not reinforcing the importance of that person, which maybe down the road could just add on to things of them maybe considering looking elsewhere.
It's all about building loyalty and sort of a mutual appreciation with that employee, because otherwise if they don't have loyalty and they don't feel a connection to your business, and they see a job ad or their friend tells them that there's another opportunity that pays them $2 more an hour, if they don't have a connection to you, they're going to go make $2 more an hour. What difference does it make to them? But if they feel like, no, I'm appreciated here, I have a growth path here, I know that people know my name. Like that's something that they're giving up by going and getting that $2 that is frankly should be really easy to accomplish. It's not because of some of the barriers I've described, but that's what we're built to do. You don't want to just be competing on pay. That's not sustainable.
Totally, man. I love the fact that you said that. Don't compete on pay, because that's ultimately a race to the bottom, in my opinion, is when you compete on pay, because the incentive for them to be with you is different. Dude, I want to talk about, actually, I want to shout something out to the listeners right now. I think having like a team engine in place is critical when you really start to scale. I'll give you an example. Like our business went from like 8 employees to 40 employees, like pretty rapidly. And I noticed immediately our line of communication was really breaking down. So it's important when it comes to scale. But if you're listening to this and like, hey, I have a small team, maybe this is important 2 years, 3 years from now. It's like, no, start these habits now. So you have these in place. Talk to me, Dave, about like, when should someone start implementing a more streamlined communication path, like with amongst their team? Like if someone's listening to this, like, we're a badass team of 8, we kind of have it on lock. Talk to us about like what you've seen, like the evolution of companies and their communication. Hey, what's up, guys? Today's episode is brought to you by Cinch. If you're ready to take your commercial cleaning business to the next level, we have you covered. Maybe you're struggling with how to bid, how to create professional-looking proposals, or just how to ensure your customers' accounts are actually being cleaned at night. Introducing Cinch Janitorial Software. Cinch is a simple, user-friendly software that eliminates these types of struggles that you probably know all too well. Cinch simplifies your entire process and will supercharge your success because they remove paperwork headaches while creating a scalable, efficient, and profitable cleaning business. Get your free demo of Cinch at cleancinch.com. They're here to turn your business into a success story. That's cleancinch, CINCH.com. It's simple, it's Cinch.
Yeah, so we have customers that range anywhere from, I would say, 20-ish employees to thousands. We have, customers that have, in different industries, that may have 50 or 60 branches all over the country, each of which is 80 to 100 people. So there's a really critical point. First of all, I think communication is almost always a challenge in the commercial cleaning industry because of the fact that people are off. There's not one central location that everyone's working at all day. Like there's inevitably going to be things. And, maybe you're fine with the group text that is just spamming people all day long and everyone gets everyone's replies, or the WhatsApp group or something. But that especially breaks down the second you start to put in a sort of supervisor layer between the owner and the crews in the field, and not just a crew leader, but like really starting to have more than one layer of management. That's when you start the game of telephone. You're one person telling somebody else who's telling somebody else, and I've watched my kids do that around the table. It gets to the third person, and it's a completely different message. So and if it even gets there at all, right, before they get distracted with all the things that they have to do operationally in the field every day to serve your customers. So, especially, I would say, like, if you get to 40 to 50 people, my guess is that whether you know it or not, there's miscommunication going on, and there's, people are starting to be really more disconnected than you might believe from the mission of the company and the values of the business.
I think you said something there that I kind of laugh at. Like, once you're at a certain number of employees, like whether you know it or not, keyword or not, there's miscommunication going on. So we've talked a lot about like kind of like obviously the importance of communication, what Team Engine is. Tell us maybe, what is Team Engine not?
Yeah, good question. So we are not the payroll system kind of compliance system for HR that you do need. You're probably using ADP or Paylocity or something along those lines. And we integrate with those systems. But I see the world in, there's two pieces of this. There's like the compliant, I have to pay my employees. I have to, have the I-9 to make sure that they're legal to work in the United States, things like that. But what none of those systems do well is the stuff that actually makes a difference in the loyalty and the engagement, and the retention of those employees over time. That's just sort of table stakes stuff that is a commodity, which is why you go out there and there's 15 different companies that all start with the word pay that'll do those things for you. Now, granted, they'll all do those things in a way that's very desk employee centric. And so you probably have a bunch of friction there. We haven't dipped our toe into that set of problems yet, because we see this whole world of opportunity for, like I said, kind of taking your employees. Those systems are not going to help you take your employees from a headwind to a tailwind. But you need both.
Yeah, totally, man. Talk to me here a little bit. So commercial cleaning, it's labor heavy, man. I mean, this is like, there's two big problems with janitorial. It's sales and staffing.
Yeah.
How have you seen like a platform like Team Engine come in and really help BSC with their recruitment?
Yeah. Recruitment is actually one of the big, like it's bread and butter for us. So, with industries like this, you really need to take, number one, a lot of the systems out there, like I said, are kind of built for more of the desk jobs. Maybe they expect a resume. They're not really mobile oriented. Communication is via email. They sort of demand a lot of the user and a lot of time that you don't have, because, like I said, you're focused on, am I going to be able to, you get into sort of spiral of, I don't have enough people to do this job. So that puts a lot more onus on me in the operations realm, but that also makes me need to hire, and then everything just starts getting worse. And so Team Engine is really built around being the wind in your sails during that hiring process in a lot of different ways. So we really help you diversify the way that you go after applicants. It's really hard to find great people these days. And I see a ton of companies where their strategy is just sort of post on Indeed and keep giving them more money when their rep calls until they run out or they get frustrated. And so, we give you a suite of tools, to QR codes to put on signage, which is super critical for these kinds of jobs. Text to apply. We got an integration with Craigslist, which is actually a really, really great source for the cleaning industry, especially. And we sort of streamline that whole process. You can advertise on social media, all the suite of tools that it then helps everything come into one place. But then more than that, we've taken that great communication core that we've been talking about throughout this conversation, and as applicants come into your system, there's a lot of really critical things. You can't just leave them there for 3 days and then expect them to still be there when you come in. They're going to take another job that's gotten back to them more quickly, maybe pays them a little more. So that time to first interaction and the responsiveness and the form of communication is super important. And so Team Engine actually sort of thoughtfully automates a bunch of that stuff. So when somebody applies, we'll reach out within the first hour via text and say, hey, James, thanks for applying to our janitor role. Please let me know why you're interested in working here. And it engages you, but it also gets information that's useful. It makes sure that person's going to be responsive. So that one of the things I hear all the time, people will come into it. Just no one enjoys the recruiting process, right? I go in, I get like a stack of resumes or a set of emails from people that are supposedly applications, and I'm picking up the phone trying to get a hold of them, and I get a hold of 1 out of 10, and I just quickly get burned out and go back to the important work that I have to do. And so Team Engine, you come in, and we've already filtered those people out for you, and you get to engage really quickly with people that are going to be responsive, and you're going to immediately get on the phone for a phone screen or get in your office for an interview. It just takes all that stuff off your plate so that you feel like you're actually maximizing your time in the hiring process for things that you're uniquely able to do, not calling people that you can't.
Imagine over 300 cleaning executives, all under one roof, ready to connect, collaborate, and build a community. Join your hosts, James Harper and Angel Sandoval, 11 keynote speakers and 8 expert panelists sharing the blueprint to scale your life and business. Head over to event.cleaningprofits.com for all the details. For being listeners, use code CEO30 for a 30% discount. See you there.
Get a hold
Yeah,
of.
yeah, exactly, man. I think you said it best right there, is maximizing your time throughout the hiring process, because what do we know to be true? We know speed to the lead, speed to the candidate is really critical. And then obviously having simple communication to get them engaged early on in the process. It's almost like if you're fishing, you have to hook the fish before you reel them in. It's the same thing with candidates,
Right.
the pool of candidates here. Dude, I'm really curious here to kind of taking a step back. Actually, one question on that. You had mentioned a QR code. You can post on things and stuff like that. Talk to me about the QR code and what's important. The reason I want to see what you guys do with the QR code, because one of our best recruiting techniques in this industry that we've heard, it's super old school, but it still works, is like people show up at the flea market and they pass out flyers and they get like some of their best employees ever. And I'm thinking, like, if you could kind of mix like maybe a QR code, text to apply, not like, what's the QR code do and how have you seen it utilized?
Yeah. So the QR code allows you, when you're in person, whether it's so if we have people use it for walk-ins too. They'll have a sign, and so we work with a bunch of different industries. So for some this is more relevant than others, but they'll have a sign on the front, maybe in English and in Spanish, that says, if you're looking to apply, rather than handing them a paper application that has to then go through a manual input process or gets lost, they just take their phone out, they scan the QR code, they get a mobile optimized application process. That's not the 10-page application that asks for their, we're not running a security clearance here. We're just asking for it's just like you're collecting a lead for your customer, from a customer. You want to get the critical information that you need to evaluate whether this person is worth your time. And the QR code allows you in that moment. You could put it on a business card. You could put it on anything. Yeah, handing out a flyer at a flea market is a great example. In general, I would say those kinds of, we see people, there's a strip mall there's a bunch of lunch places that people always go to, and they work with those businesses to put up flyers about how they're hiring. Those are almost always the most promising, productive sources, not giving Indeed $1,000 to promote your job amongst a sea of other jobs. And so did that answer your question? It kind of helps you very quickly go from a physical piece of paper or something like that to, I now have the application up on my phone and I can enter my information and build that connection really quickly.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think it's really cool that you guys do that. And again, it just like simplifies the process, but we're still using traditional tactics like, okay, pass it, like, here, scan this QR code at the flea market, but then you're integrating it with technology. So if you can catch that candidate's information, the critical information, and then they flow into your system, and Team Engine is able to capture all that, and then you can start the communication. That's where you blend both worlds. I think we live in a world of extremes where it has to be either or. It's like, no, it can be this and that. And so I had to touch on that real fast. I want to go, I've 2 questions for you here, man. I have 3 last things before we wrap up. Number 1 is I want to go back to the ethos, the beginning of Team Engine. As a co-founder, man, what was the moment like you were like, we need to do this? Like, take me back to those early days, the day ones.
Yeah, that's a great question. It feels just 6.5 years ago. Feels like we've had a pandemic and all sorts of stuff going on in between. So it's trying to remember the specifics, but we were just really passionate about not just this industry, but these kind of service-oriented, people-oriented businesses, frankly, like, run our economy. And like, they're the core of what runs the American economy. And we just, looking at the industry as entrepreneurs and people that are passionate about teams and people, we just saw it as just a very underserved industry in terms of technology. And there are people that, in general, I think you see, I come from a software background. You see a lot of software people that go out and solve problems in spaces that they see every day or that they experience every day. And we wanted to go out to a space where we felt like we could make a huge difference because not enough people were trying to serve these industries. So that was kind of, it sort of blended our passion for building great teams with a set of industries that we thought could really use software that was trying to build great teams.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, man, teams are everything in our line of work here. I can tell you, and people listening have heard me say this, but the ones that separate the winners in this industry are the ones that have great teams. And what goes into that? Communication, leadership, validation, all this stuff. But like, it sounds woo-woo at times, but the ones that emphasize and put investment into their people, and communication would be a piece to that, a huge piece to it, they win across the board, hands down.
Yeah.
Does it
and that's only getting more true over time. Well, you were talking earlier about how, it's customer experience and all that. Well, where does your customer experience come from? It comes from the crew that's on site. I mean, they're the ones that provide the customer experience. And it's exactly what we were talking about in terms of it's a compounding thing. If you have bad employee engagement, then they're going to create bad customer experiences. If you have great employee engagement and great loyalty, and they care about the sort of experience that they're providing for the company to their customers, then you're going to have great customer experience. And by the way, what we haven't talked about is probably the best source of great employees that we see in this industry is referrals. And that's another thing that Team Engine really supports. And it's a virtuous cycle. So the more you invest in your employees, the more they want their friends and family members to work there. And the more likely they are to refer them, and the easier it is for you to bring people on because you have a reputation for being a great employer, and everything gets easier. And if you go the other way, everything just continuously gets harder.
What's up, Profitable Cleaner listeners? Quick question for you. Are you using 5 to 7 different platforms just to manage the everyday operations of your commercial cleaning company? If so, let us help you consolidate that into one platform. Introducing you uSource. Go to usource.com, book your free demo today, and actually get started on your trial for 60 days. No charge for 60 days, all from time and attendance to reporting, vendor management, operations, sales. It's time you stop using 5 to 7 platforms and consolidate into one. So listeners, don't forget, go to usource.com and start your account today.
So well said, man. And you're right, we didn't touch on that. Referrals are like the number one, right? Whether that's sales or whether that's recruitment, man, that's huge. It's everything, man. One thing that's cool, guys, if you're listening to this, Team Engine's actually going to be at our annual event here in September, Cleaning Profits 3.0. So so Dave, and our community knows, is we don't bring like software specifically or like a supplier in without it kind of being proved within the industry. And you guys have done it, man, and nothing but great reviews. So if you guys are listening to this episode right now, click the link that we have in the show notes, or come shake hands with the Team Engine team at Cleaning Profits here in September. Because we definitely, I'm thinking of this. I'm like, we need to implement Team Engine within our own team, like within our own company now. Real fast, man. I want to pull up something that you had here. So I got a quote that you sent to Andrea, our producer, before the show.
Oh boy, okay.
It says, it is impossible to build one's happiness on the unhappiness of others. You sent that as one of your favorite quotes or advice. When you hear that, what's that mean to Dave?
I think it's just, for me, it's about finding happiness and satisfaction that's not dependent on other people, and thinking more about others than yourself. It's kind of, not how do I compare to other people, but what can I do for other people is kind of one of the big things for me. And then self-satisfaction and quote unquote success, I think, sort of flows from that. And it's a much more sustainable form of success than comparison to other people.
I love that, man. I've actually never heard that quote before. And it's actually like, I hear quotes all day, every day. And just on Instagram, and then obviously on this podcast. But like, there's some that like stick with me, and like this is one that like I'm like, okay, it's impossible to build your own happiness on the unhappiness of others. Love that, man. So hopefully, if you guys are listening to this, that's something you guys can take with you. Last but not least, I like to do this, man. So we typically do these podcasts in person, and we record them in Dallas, Texas. So next time, and are you in Colorado?
I'm actually just outside Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia.
Washington, D.C. Okay, man. Well, maybe someday we'll have the chance to do one in person, and it's a lot more meaningful.
Yeah.
We're in this like fancy studio. I always say, look into this camera right here. I'm not going to do that this time, but I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. And it's my favorite thing to do on the show. If you were to give a shout out to someone in your life, it can be on your team. It could be a family member, your wife, whoever. If you were to give a shout out to someone for something that they're doing right now that's meaningful in your world, now's your moment, man, because we like to clip this up and send it to them.
Oh, wow. Man, you really are putting me on the spot. Gosh, there's so many people. We are in the midst. So I've gotten pretty involved in my daughter's Little League. She plays softball. And we have an incredible Little League here that is entirely volunteer run and is just incredible, the amount that they're able to accomplish with entirely volunteers and the amount that some of the leadership of the league puts into making it a great place, a nurturing place for the kids, and sort of a home for so many families and a kind of a community in the area is pretty incredible to me. So, there's several people at the leadership level. I would say my friend in the neighborhood, Rachel, who runs the softball component of the league, I find particularly impressive the effort and energy that she puts in while also maintaining a pretty high profile, important job on the side as well.
Awesome, man. And I love hearing that, man, because we never tell people where to go or who to give a shout out to. And you give a shout out to someone within your community. I think it's awesome when like business owners and founders are not just about business, right? They're about life, and that's what it's all about. And they're about the community and the ones around them. So Dave, I appreciate it, man. If people are listening to this and they're like, man, I want to learn more, pitch it, man. What's your call to action here? We'll link whatever up if they want to follow you or Team Engine.
Yeah, so certainly you can find Team Engine on various social media platforms: LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. Best option is probably to go to teamengine.io. We just launched a brand new website, which I think describes what we do pretty well. Has some case studies and things on there that you can read, and it also has the option to sign up for a trial that is fully guaranteed. So we're happy to give you a demo. Happy to talk more. If you don't mind, James, real quick, I'd just love to leave everyone with good luck. I know this is difficult, whether or not Team Engine is right for you. Certainly wish you the best of luck in building your teams. One piece of advice I have is James referenced time to lead earlier, and I actually think that's how we think of things, is that your people processes are exactly like your prospects and your customers. So when you think about, and oftentimes the leaders and the owners that we talk to have that down cold. They know how they would treat a lead that comes into their website, or how they would treat a prospect or a customer. And if you apply those same principles to your applicants and your employees, it's just very analogous. You never have an applicant or a lead for a customer that would sit there for days before you get back to them, or how would you handle all these different, if this was a customer instead of an employee or an applicant, how would you handle that? And if you approach things from that perspective, I think it's hard to go wrong.
So well said, man. I feel like we should do a part 2 of this just on leadership here, man. Because we could talk tools, and Team Engine's a tool at the end of the day, right? It's a philosophy with the tool, but like I think the people that actually like someone like you that's founded it, there's a bigger philosophy behind it that created the tool, right? So which brought you to where you guys are, man. So Dave, I appreciate this, man. If you guys are listening to this, smash the link below. We're big believers in you, and like I said, Team Engine is going to be at our annual event this September, so we have some fun things
looking
planned.
forward to it.
yeah, we have some fun things planned. So appreciate it, brother. And yeah, thank you for your time today, sir.
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot. Really nice talking to you, James.